Reg, it's very good to see you, and thank you for coming and spending some time talking about what you're doing here today.
Thank you for asking me.
so, so Reg, you've been in the department a long, long time. But before we get into that, you know, you're very specialized in what you do, and your training and education obviously is very unique in terms of the skills that you have to work in a space like you do in the Campbell lab. What are the things that sort of led you to where you wanted to understand science, you wanted to understand the how these bacteria and things that can affect our vision, how they work and how they impact people. What led you to going down this path?
Well, I think that the path really starts. Like you said, I started 43 years ago in a laboratory set up by the Campbell Foundation, Estelle Campbell, and I started out as a technician. I got hired so someone else could do research. And so with that, I just kept on building upon it. The laboratory started out as a clinical laboratory. And through the years, I got the idea. I had the opportunity to do research more as a hobby. It's still a hobby to me. I don't do it because I have to do it. I do it because I like doing it. And this in the beginning, I had to learn the clinical laboratory. I had to put together I wasn't, of course, I didn't start out as the head of the laboratory, but I did start probably about 40 years ago. I did become head of the laboratory. And then basically I had to get into diagnostics. And I think that's what I really liked about all through my years, because it's not every day we do the same thing. Diagnostic microbiology is basically a lot of fun. It's sort of a thing that, with patients, we you have a patient with a corneal ulcer, eye infection, and just to finding out what that infection is, and so they can successfully treat it. That's very fulfilling. It really is. I think that through the years, we said, as I always tell people, is when I first started out, we were a mom and pop laboratory. 40 years later, we're a mom and pop laboratory because that's what we deal with people directly. We don't necessarily, I'm not everything that we do that we really involved with each patient when it comes to their care. So through the years, I started out with basic type of techniques, and because we are a full certified laboratory, we have to keep up with everything. We don't do it because we just because it's helpful. We have to. We really got to stay up on a cutting edge of technology as far as our laboratory concerned, and that's
So
going to change. Go
if
ahead.
somebody who didn't know anything about the Charles T. Campbell Laboratory was to ask you, what is it? What is this laboratory? What do you do there? Tell us what that would tell us how you would describe that.
We're an ophthalmic microbiology laboratory dedicated to microbiology of the eye only. We don't do any other part of the head. We don't do the ears. We don't do no. We just do the eyes, and uh, and it's very unique just because we're the only one who's actually certified in the country to do this. And
That's interesting. Now, why aren't there other microbiology labs throughout the country? Is it because you start off with this support, or is it because this is you've shown your value, I guess, over the years? Why have you
I
stayed
think
as
that
a
it has to do with longevity. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I know the old techniques and I know the new techniques. Our laboratory is a little bit different. Most microbiology laboratories, you take samples to the laboratory, they find out what they look for pathogens, and that's all they do. We're really involved with actually the patient's diagnosis. Uh, it's really funny at times because the doctors come in. I work very closely with the physicians. They come in there, they tell us the whole story of the patient. So I through the years I've got I have a pretty good idea with all the different patients or what are all the possibilities that a patient could have as far as the pathogen is concerned. So that's very, very unique because most laboratories, they just have no background of the patients they are actually looking, trying to treat. We're much different. So I think our laboratory is more concerned not necessarily just with microbiology, but what causes the infections. So that makes it very, very unique.
Now you work with specimens not just from, the docs here at UPMC in Pittsburgh. People send you specimens from all over. Am I right?
Yes. What happens is, like I said, through many years, I've made friends with many residents, many fellows, some people who were on staff here, they left and they're going to other places. And when they go elsewhere, they find out they don't have a laboratory who'll do all the things that they've done when they were here. So I have people like and they'll send me specimens, and it's easy to use our laboratory. And as long as you have a you send you send a specimen to us. We charge and everything else also, but you can send specimens to me anywhere from the United States to our laboratory. And I do get specimens from around the country looking for certain pathogens.
So what are some of the things that are really unique that you've been able to find in the laboratory? Are there some specific specimens that have been identified in the Campbell lab that are really unusual?
What's really unusual about our laboratory, which is also because we just do eyes. The treatment of eyes is much different than from systemic. For instance, when we treat patients for bacterial infections, we go topically or we inject it right to the spot. In most cases, that's not the way you treat infections. It's all done systemically, either through the mouth or intravenously. So I think that's the biggest thing we have right now because we find that resistance is not fortunately resistance is not a problem so much in the eye as in other parts of the body. Another thing we see is acanthamoeba. Acanthamoeba is amoeba that it can cause problems, not as many problems with other parts of the body, but when it gets into the eye, we're set up to do cultures. We're the only laboratory in the country is set up to do molecular testing for acanthamoeba, and we also still culture that and do it the old-fashioned way too. So acanthamoeba is very unusual. Another thing is we take specimens, corneal specimens. We actually look at them. We do smears. I mean, they'll take the specimen, put on a glass slide, and we're able to look at these slides and actually directly detect these organisms. And we do that within about an hour. So when you send them here, my whole mission is two things basically. We want a definitive diagnosis as soon as possible. Our reporting is very timely, so the patient's not going to be waiting a week or two, which may happen in other parts of the country.
Well, it sounds like an amazing service and an amazing asset. And I do know, I remember when Dr. Sahel came here, 4 years ago, one of the things that he pointed out is very impressive is that Pittsburgh has this amazing asset in this laboratory. And so, obviously your work has been highly valued by every chairman that's come through here, and you've seen them all reach over
Well,
the years.
I've seen a lot of people come and go.
Yeah. So, we've had a lot of new faculty, a lot of new clinical faculty, a lot of new research faculty, and I think that you're doing a lot of work that's central and important to all of them. How are you doing keeping up with all of that? Has it been excessively busy for you these last few years, or is it uh, what are the things that have changed for you?
um, I mean, I've always been involved. We've always had a lot of people. We're seeing a lot. I see a lot, for instance, I do work with some people on the outside. I guess it's all about delegating the responsibilities. I don't put everything, I learned a long time ago, you don't put everything on your own shoulders, but you need to have good people around you
Yeah.
and have them really help out. One of the better faculty since I was happy to was Dr. Junji. Dr.
Oh,
Junji and I work really close together. Through all the years we've been doing a lot. We've seen a lot of infections, different types of infections. We have a lot of data, But with him and I, we've been publishing a lot of this data, so we're actually able to let people know about infections and how to treat them. Most of my stuff is, I will say, I mean, I work closely with Robert Shanks. Robert
Hmm.
Shanks, he does all the biofilm studies, and I, I provide him with tons of bacteria, so he can work on it and look for different things. And he's been doing, I mean, he does a lot of work through our laboratory. Of course, I work with Eric Romanowski, who recently has become part of our faculty, and I've been working here. I mean, we're we're godfathers to each of our children. So
That's great.
that's how close we are. And so I work very closely with him. I mean, yeah, there's a lot, and plus the future is really, it's really, it's as we talk about it, for instance, evolution. Evolution is supposed to be small changes. There's major changes. The laboratory has been changing. I try to work with the clinical laboratory area. We've been with since Dr. Sahel has come here, a lot of retinal service. We've been doing a lot of, for instance, a lot of uveitis testing and that type of deal, because technology's really got to the point where we're able to really identify other organisms that cause problems. So it's just a matter. That's what I do.
What are some things that for the future will be important in a lab like yours in microbiology? How can you see this defining itself for the future to really make an impact to help patients?
Well, like I said, the technology has changed a lot in diagnosis. There's no doubt about that. For instance, I've just had looked things up this morning. We had a pass corneal fellow last year. He sent me some emails, and right now, if we culture patients, we take it, we grow it up, and once we grow it up, we do susceptibilities. The technology now is that you can take a swab, send it somewhere. They're basically they're gonna detect it with molecular techniques, and at the same time, they can also do susceptibilities by looking for resistance. That will be the future. One time, way back, we didn't do virology when I first started. After so many years, I said, "Hey, we got to expand to virology." So we do cell. So we did the way you did it. We did cell cultures. You grow up the virus in cells. Now there is no more virology in the main laboratory. We do everything by molecular techniques, which is quick, and we have a very close relationship with the main laboratories. So I think as far as the future is concerned, a lot of people always think about microbiology and antibiotics. If once you get resistance, you need a new antibiotic. Now that's not the way things happen anymore. Actually, there are no new antibiotics. So we have to, the ones we have, we got to use them wisely. And I think that's the type of stuff that I'm working with the corneal specialist, saying, hey, this is the way we got to do things now, because I'm not going to have anything for you in the future for new antibiotics. And I said we had to be able. I think the whole idea of microbiology in the future is looking at prevention, because some things we just can't treat that well, like acanthamoeba. But if we don't get the acanthamoeba in the first place, then we don't have to worry about treating them. So I think prevention is going to be a big thing for the future. And for the people who do have problems, we have to have better detection methods. And the detection methods are they're actually they don't develop diagnostic tests to make money or have them to be so expensive. The new techniques are much cheaper. They make them much more practical, and it's a totally amazing what they can do, even in the main laboratories, even here at UPMC. So I think that's where we're always going to be evolving into doing better ways of detecting and hopefully better ways of treating.
Well, it's terrific, I'm glad we got a chance to do this because I always learn a little something, and I can see that this is going to continue to be really integral to so much of the work that goes on for our physicians, for our patients, but in helping the community in general. And so I hope that I don't ever have a need to have any specimens from my eye sent to your lab, but I'll feel good if that's the case, that that the right work will be done to understand what that is, so we can get the right treatment. So when it comes down to it, that's what it's about, and certainly about helping patients. So, Reg, it really has been a pleasure. So thank you. Thank you for spending time, and
No problem. It was a
we'll,
pleasure on my end.
all right. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you again, Reg. Hopefully, in down at the coffee stand
Oh yeah.
soon.
Well,
So,
you'll see me around. No problem.
okay, you take care.
Okay. Thank you.